demand for data scientists are growing exponentially, and there's no surprise at all. The why a lot of people are trying to now move to this field. Uh, However, by the experience of conducting multiple interviews across different companies, what I have seen so far is that a lot of people, especially who are absolutely new into the field right from college or who are making a shift from a different domain to this field, they get trapped by the advanced concepts and some of the jargons which is floating across in this industry. A lot of focus and emphasis is laid on machine learning, artificial intelligence, computer vision, deep learning, a lot of these jargons. And somewhere I feel the focus, shifts to programming and focus shifts to the different algorithms and packages. And in this process, what happens is a lot of folks somewhere, miss out some of the core and very basic concepts which is absolutely critical in this particular field of data science. So we thought about coming up with a series of videos which go in depth on some of these core and basic concepts, which is very critical for you to be aware of if you are going to be a data science practitioner. The first and foremost understanding which is required if you are a part of this field is what exactly is data. Now, in this world of big data where information is everywhere floating across the world, big data is a term which we are often aware of. But what exactly is this data? Is data an observation? Is it a value? Is it just any value, or does it really mean something more? So come, let's try and discuss this topic in a bit more detail so that you have a more clearer understanding of some of these concepts. Now, any image, text or number does not always qualify to be a data. For this kind of numbers, values, text, images to qualify as data, it should solve a certain purpose. In the context of a business problem, it should have some meaning or it should provide some light or information. So data can be thought about as a collection of related observations. Now data can be classified into different types. A data could be in discrete form or continuous form. It's said to be in discrete form when a particular variable, take for example, the unique customers coming to a store on a specific day. So the number of unique customers cannot be 1.5 or 2.5. So even if you're considering the real number scale, right, it cannot pick up any value. So that's a discrete variable. On the other hand, a continuous data type is where a variable can hold any particular value within a specified interval. For example, height. Height could be, anything in between a scale. For example, somebody's height is 6.1 feet or 6.15 feet. It could be anything, right? Data can also be classified as a nominal or an ordinal variable. A nominal variable does not have any inherent ordering. For example, if you are supposed to look at the different states where stores of Walmart are present in the US, there isn't any hierarchy or any ranking in these particular stores based on their geographic location. So this becomes a nominal data. On the other hand, if we are looking at something like a speedometer or an early warning system, where there could be three potential colors to indicate three different states of a particular situation, that comes under an ordinal data type. So there is an inherent ordering which measures the severity in this case. For example, red kind of indicates that there's a severe alert. Yellow is an alert which is not that severe, and green means there's no reason to worry about. So there's this inherent ordering in place. You could think of data also as raw data, which is often not exactly similar always, but it's often also known as primary data. Now, primary data collection can be done through various types. It could be done through direct personal observation, or if you are orally investigating somebody, you could also share and send out different sample questionnaires, sample surveys for people to fill out, and you could collect primary data from these sources. You could also think about scheduling different interviews and gathering information from focused group studies. So that's kind of a primary data. However, one of the critical challenges with getting such data is the time complexity and the associated cost with fetching primary data, which is why often people resort to secondary sources of data. These sources of data are mostly in the form of reports or publications and available publicly to access. Processed data and unprocessed data is one other way of classifying data, which we will be talking more about in some of the subsequent lectures where we talk about exploratory data analysis. And the main difference between the two is data in its raw form does not have, it has information, but that information is not always quite evident. There's a lot of noise in that data which needs to be cleaned up to further process it in such a way so that information and patterns could be found out much more easily from this particular data. And this is the process which is known as cleansing of data or data cleaning. Data could also be thought about as either cross-sectional, a time series, or pooled. A cross-sectional data is where you are trying to study, a single individual unit. It could be a household, let's say, but you are trying to study the same individual. So in the case of cross-sectional data, the idea here is you are trying to study different individuals or different cross-sectional units. It could be households, it could be stores, it could be individuals, it could be any unit of unit that you are trying to track at a single point of time. So if you are trying to understand, let's say, the household spend in the US at a given time period, and you are trying to compare across different households for this time period, that could be thought about as a cross-sectional study. On the other hand, a time series data has an inherent time component in this, where you are trying to, if you're talking about the same example, we are trying to here talk about maybe the one individual or one household, and we are looking at his expenditure across different time periods. So if you are looking at a history of transactions that a customer has done over a time period, that becomes a time series data. Pooled or panel data, on the other hand, is a combination of both, where you are studying both the cross-sectional units as well as the time, you have the time dimension as well. And there could be further pooled data or panel data could also be either balanced or unbalanced, where the balanced here means that you have records or observations for all the cross-sectional units for all the time frames in equal proportions. So if you are talking about, let's say, 5 households and if you are looking at a 5-year time frame, then you should ideally have 5 years worth of data for all and each of these 5 individuals. However, on the other hand, if you're looking at an unbalanced data, in this case, you might not always have the same number of records for all of your cross-sectional units. Some of the most important terminology in this field is, to start off with, let's talk about what we know as a variable and what is a constant. Variables are trying to hold values that we try to measure, control, and manipulate for meeting some of our predefined objectives. On the other hand, constants are those values which we consider not to change in the context of an experiment or a research. Some of these terms are very important for us to be aware of. The first one is that of a random variable. This is a variable that takes up different values as a result of the outcomes of any random experiment. Let's take the case of a coin toss. If you are tossing a fair coin, the probability of heads is half in one toss. Now suppose we are trying to toss this coin for 10 times and we try to store the probability of getting heads in these 10 tosses in a variable. Now that variable should be a random variable. The next important concept is that of population. Population can be thought of about as a collection of all elements about which we are trying to draw certain conclusions or insights. It could vary depending on the business problem or depending on the situation that you are trying to solve. You could think of the population of all the students in a class, or you could think about all the residents in a city as a population. A sample, on the other hand, is just a collection or a subset of some but not all of the elements of a population. In the previous example, if you were to look at only the students in the class who are above 25 years of age, that would have been a sample from the population of all the students in the class. An important concept here is that of representative sample. A key idea to keep in mind here is that a sample might not always represent the population in a correct manner. A representative sample, on the other hand, makes sure that it contains the relevant characteristics of the population in the same proportion as that is present in the population itself. So moving forward, whenever we talk about variables in the context of statistics, we mostly refer to them as random variables. And whenever we talk about samples, unless explicitly mentioned, we talk about representative samples. Coming to the units of measurement, we can think about units in two broad ways. The first one is known as simple units of measurement. For example, you could measure distance in terms of kilometer, you could measure weight in terms of kilograms, or you could measure time in terms of hour. These are simple units. On the other hand, composite units are a combination of two units which are simple in nature. It could be, if you're looking at the speed of a vehicle, it could be kilometer per hour. Or often, for the country's GDP to make more sense for many of the policymakers and researchers, instead of just looking at GDP, which is the gross domestic product, people often term GDP per capita as an interesting metric to look at. This brings us to an important concept of what a good unit of measurement should be like. For a measurement to be a good unit of measurement, it should be clear and unambiguous. For example, often in customer demographic data or household demographic data, we have the data at a household level, where the demographic information like the age, gender, ethnicity, the ownership of a house, and many such other details are provided at a household level. However, in the transactional data that you look at, the transactions are being made by customers who are part of certain households. So a good unit of measurement should not have any ambiguity, in the sense that if we know that we are looking at customer IDs, we should be easily able to identify that they are not the same as household IDs in the data. A good unit of measurement should also be rigid and homogeneous. For example, if in a particular context of data that we are looking at, if we are looking at weight being measured consistently in kilograms during the data collection phase, all the subsequent phases of data collection should report weight in the same unit of measurement, which is kilograms. And it might not be a good idea to change that to tons or grams or milligrams. A good unit of measurement also needs to be stable. Take the example of if we are looking at production of goods over years and we want to compare this production across different years. In this case, the units and not the dollars makes a more stable measure. A statistical error is the difference between an observed value and the actual or true value. However, there is a very interesting concept that we will talk about in one of our subsequent lectures, which is on bias. At this point, it is important for us to remember that a statistical error or a measurement error is not the same as what we know as bias. As a data science practitioner, one should be aware of certain basic challenges in the data gathering or data collection process. The first one is that of what is known as cognitive bias. Cognitive bias tries to tell us that the reality is observed in different ways by different people. What seems natural and what seems feasible or correct to somebody might seem completely off to another person while collecting the data. Data quality needs to be emphasized a lot. We have this important concept where we say that the output is as good as the input is, or garbage in and garbage out. So if your data is bad, any kind of models or any kind of insights and patterns that you finally infer from your data is going to be faulty or biased. So data quality is of utmost importance, and a good data quality needs to ensure that the data is accurate, it is complete, which means there's no missing data, and it should also be unique. A few other important concepts on data are that of data granularity. Often, your raw data comes to you in the format of an uncleaned data where you might have data in different time horizons. For example, if you're trying to study the sales of a store in during the different days in a particular region, you would have the store sales data at a daily level. However, it might not be of a lot of interest to you to have that data at a daily level for your analysis. You might be trying to look at the prediction or the sales maybe at a higher aggregated level, maybe a monthly level, maybe a quarterly level, and you're trying to build a report out of it. So it is important to understand what is the granularity at which the data has been collected, because this gives a lot of insights or ideas into the process of aggregation and approximation that might have gone in the back end behind the scenes while the data collection had happened. Another important concept is that of merging of different data sources. Now, often the data that we get, in a unified table or a database does not necessarily come from one single source. Data often comes from various sources. So, one important concept to keep in mind here is that of data consistency and the required measures and precautions that needs to be taken care of before joining or merging certain data from these different sources. Also, the availability and accessibility creates a huge concern and a huge is an important area of consideration whenever we are talking about data. Data should be available and accessible. Let's suppose today you are trying to fetch the data from a publicly available source, or you are trying to scrape the data from some source. And tomorrow, if you require the same data, you might, if you are landing up with a problem where you might not be able to fetch it, that might lead to a problem. So, whenever the data collection stage is being considered and the data collection, sources are being considered, it's very important to keep in mind that the data should be available and be accessible throughout all the times.
That's all we had to discuss for today, and I hope you have learned something new. Don't forget to click on that bell icon and the subscribe button to stay updated and notified about any of our new classes or sessions that we come up with. Stay tuned, we'll catch up soon.